This book is the first one I've ever written that's been dedicated to a specific person. I mean, like, again, I've got another book coming out this year. And the dedication in that is to people who identify with the characters in it once again, in a very specific way. I think a lot of the time with my dedications, it gives you an insight into what the book's going to be, like, centered around. But with this, it's not that. Although it is still centered around the themes of the book. The dedication in this book reads, "For the one person who always reminds me that I am just as human as anyone else." I think if you know anything about me, if you've been here for a while or you've read my acknowledgements in my other books, I think you know what that means in all probability. But here it is anyway. Let's go back to the beginning. In 2012, I went to university and I met someone there, a friend. Well, the woman that became my friend in 5 weeks. 5 weeks it took for us to become friends. In 2013, in July, we started to date. In 2016, I asked her to marry me and she said, "Curse you, I was going to ask," and then said yes. In 2018, 5 years after we started dating, to the day, we got, well, to the 2 days before. So we wanted to do it on a Saturday so people could come. We got married. And then we found a song while we were looking, well actually after we'd finished looking for it, while we were looking for songs to play during our wedding, we stumbled across, properly for the first time, the band Fall Out Boy. I know. And then after we got married, we kept listening to Fall Out Boy together in the kitchen mostly. And it's not relevant, I'm just... And we found their Mania album. I don't actually know when that came out. I don't know if it came out in 2018 and that's why we hadn't found it before the wedding, but on that album is a song called Last the Real Ones, which if you follow me on Instagram you'll have noticed is on a fair few of these Welcome to Humanity reels. That was the song that inspired a series of short stories. The series of short stories in question I called the Welcome series, and I posted them on nopoodles.wordpress.com in 2018, in like October, November, December. It was 5 parts. My wife read all 5 of these parts and said, "God, this would make a great novel." And I said, "Yeah, I'm probably never going to do that." "No, I'm probably never going to do that. Because I don't want to write a dystopian novel," I said. "I don't even know if I want to write sci-fi," I said. 101 ways to eat your words. So I said basically no. And she said, "Okay, it would be nice, but that's fair. You should write what you want." And I said, "Oh, thank you, I love you too." In 2020, January, February, March, I don't know. It can't have been January, we were still in New Zealand. In 2020, when we got back to the UK, after trying to make it work in New Zealand and then the pandemic happened and we had to come back. Yay, cut short. Anyway, I printed out those 5 short stories and I thought, I'll just give it a shot, right? What's the worst that can happen? And then I stopped doing it because it wasn't working. I couldn't figure out what the story was. I was trying to make it work with these specific characters from this 5 short stories and the plot line that I'd laid out in that, and it just wasn't working. And the reason that it wasn't working was because that wasn't the story that I needed to tell. I wasn't in the right headspace for it yet, and I didn't have... Like, when you're writing these short stories, you expect your reader to fill in the pieces in the gaps. And when you're writing a novel, you have to do that yourself. And that's really difficult if you've not set it up for yourself to fill in the gaps. So it wasn't working. So I put it aside. I said, okay, never mind. It's not working. I'm glad I didn't tell her I was going to do this because that would have been really disappointing. Except I did tell her and she was disappointed. But again, she said the thing that she always does whenever I say, actually this isn't going to work. She said, okay, cool. It's a shame, I'm sad, but that sadness is not a reflection of you. It's just, not in these exact words. justifying it for you, giving you the gist. But basically that she was disappointed, but also she understood that sometimes you just can't write these things. Like, creative processes are complex and hard to hard to wrangle and hard to get the way you want them to be. In 2021, in March, I was like, I'm going to give it another shot. I'm going to do it for... Yeah, in March I said I'm going to do it for Camp NaNoWriMo. And then, instead of doing that, I made this happen. That's when I rewrote Mary Ellen Breaking the Curse into the version that you see today. I decided actually I was going to publish it because we were in the middle of a pandemic and I was afraid I was never going to publish a book, and I needed to publish a book, and this was the only one I had ever finished. So I just went ahead and did it. That took up 6 months of my life. Anyway, just the publishing part. That took up a lot more. Anyway, then, after that, I put it away again because it wasn't working, because I wanted to do Mary Ellen Breaking the Curse more. In 2022, we were moving house. I needed a project I could work on without Wi-Fi. I am without Wi-Fi as I'm filming this video also. Anyway, I needed a project I could work on without Wi-Fi, so I picked it back up again. I had this printed file folder, which is somewhere in the massive boxes, which are behind you. And underneath the camera also. Anyway, so I picked that. I picked Welcome to Humanity. And then, if you were here in 2022, you'll have seen potentially have seen my How Many Works in Progress is Too Many video, which I intend to make an update of this year so that you know, like, I can keep a record going, because I think that sounds like a lot of fun. Anyway, so there I was. By the time I got to that video, by the time that video posted, I was fully convinced that me saying in the video that this was going to be the next project I published was not going to work out. Which means I have also said that that's not, like, I've said in a video that this was going to be the next thing I published, and then I said in another video that it definitely wasn't going to be. In January of 2020, because I got to the end of it again, and I was just like, I'd figured out that it needed to be like this brand new character, and these 3 interweaving timelines by this point, which is what the book has in it. It's 3 interweaving timelines of 3 different characters, and how their lives, like, what's it called? Crash into one another, and like conjoin and diverge and all that kind of stuff. It's really intricate. I was going to say clever, but actually intricate is a better word. And then I was like, okay, this isn't, I just don't know what the end is supposed to be. I just don't know what it is. I don't know what the ending is. So I just left it. I just left it unfinished. I was like, no, this is it. I'm done now. And my wife was like, you probably should be done now. And I was like, I definitely am. 2023. In January, February, we knew that we were going to be moving again. And that my wife's contract where she was coming to an end, and that she needed to find another job, and she was going away to loads and loads of interviews all the time, and a lot of them required her to stay overnight because we were in the middle of nowhere, and it was hard to get back and like go out places and get back, and like it's like a 10-hour drive to a lot of the places that she was going. So she took the train for a start, because you don't do that in the UK. You don't drive for 10 hours by yourself. And I was still recovering from subluxing my knee and trying to get Porthos up and down the stairs of our flat so he could go outside 3 times a day. That's how often he goes. It was awful. And I took that awful and I made it into this. Like, I'm not one who believes that you have to go through hardship to become a creative or to become caring. I don't think that's true. And I think that the idea of the tortured artist is actually really harmful, and that is something I want to talk about at some point, but I'm still formulating my thoughts about how to explain what I mean. But sure did turn that torture into something. And when I finally finished it in February, March, while I was publishing Marilyn Finding the Air, well, actually, to be fair, my wife is, sorry, I've skipped ahead of myself a little bit. So my wife is away on doing these things. And I had finished Mary Ellen Finding the Air, ready to go. I had finished the next thing that I was planning on publishing, which is coming out in October, a sensible amount of time away from my last publication. And then I was like, oh gosh, I've got to do something. I've got to figure something out. And we packed up a bunch of our stuff already. And I was like, what am I going to write? And then I stumbled across the Welcome to Humanity folder. And I thought, I'll just give it one more try. One last shot. And if I can't do it, that's it. It's over. I'm breaking up with this project. And I finished it. And I was like, what's happening? So I immediately, upon finishing it, printed a terrible typo-ridden copy of it. And I gave it to my wife. And I said, this is 40-something thousand words. Between 40 and 50,000 words. It should only take you 4 to 5 hours. Here you go. And she was like, what is this? I don't have it to hand, or I'd be there like, it was just a big A4 document. She's like, what is this? And she opened it, and it starts the same way that it has started since the very beginning, since it was 5 short stories. Ravi gasped. Pain flared through him. His vision blurred in the sudden bright lights. Hands held him down. That's the first paragraph, which you will have heard me read if you were here last time I posted, which was chapter 1 audio, because I was going to do this video first and do chapter 1 audio now, but I didn't have this filmed, and I needed something that was already pre-done and I could upload before I lost my Wi-Fi for 10 days. 10 days. Anyway, that's where I am now. I'm in the Wi-Fi-less zone, so I'm a bit weirder than usual. Anyway, I handed it to her. She read it in one sitting and then cried for 40 minutes. And I cried because I'd finally finished it. And you may be thinking, okay, you just said that a sensible amount of time away from a publication is 6 months for you. 6 months per publication. It said it took you 6 months to get Mary Ellen Breaking the Curse together, that you were going to wait 6 months between Mary Ellen Finding the Air and the next project you published. So, Will, why now? Well, now, because this is a love letter to the one person who always reminds me that I am just as human as anybody else. And this year, July 2023, is our 5/10 year anniversary. Married for 5, together for 10. And I realised when I finally finished this, and my wife cried for 40 minutes, not just because it's pretty, because it is a bit sad, sorry, that this needed to be her anniversary present. She has spent the last 10 years making me feel amazing, and I hope I've done the same for her. But 5/10 years is astounding, and she is so worth every agonizing second of this. She is everything. And she is she's everything. She is what keeps me going. And this is the book she asked me to write in 2018 when I came up with the idea for it. The same year that she said to me, stop trying to get hired by somebody else. Just write books for the next 5 years and see where it takes you. You have 5 years to just write books and see if you can make this work. And if you can earn any money in that time from your writing, we'll consider it a success and we'll try and make it a full-time gig for you, where you never have to get another job with anyone else ever again. And you can just do writing forever. And it's been 5 years. I am earning some money from books. We've both agreed that slow growing is perfect because it gives you so much time to learn. And this is the book she asked me to write, so it's only fitting that this happens now. If you found this video and this is the first thing you've ever seen from me, I hope you'll consider giving this a go. It's $3.99 for the ebook, British pounds, sorry, translate that into whatever. It should be available pretty much everywhere. It's $8.99 for the physical book. It's 200 odd pages. It'll take you an afternoon. It's a short novel on purpose. And you can buy signed copies from me if you like, along with signed copies of my other books. Wow, I've got a new rolly chair. These ones. And all of my signed books that you get directly from me, they're a little bit more expensive. These ones are $11.99 signed from me, each individually, not for both. This is $9.99 signed from me. Yes, there is a disparity there. I hate $10.99. Anyway, that's literally it. You get some extra goodies if you get these signed directly from me, but also you do have to pay shipping, and I have no control over the cost of shipping. It is literally what it is. Also, fun fact, I plan on doing this for all of my books, but this is a glossy cover for sci-fi and these are matte covers for fantasy. So I hope somebody else finds as much joy in that as I do. Glossy for sci-fi, matte for fantasy. I just think it's really nice. But yeah, they all line up really nicely on a little shelf together. The shelf is currently my hand, but look at how nicely these line up. I love a good spine graphic. They're really hard to place, but they're so worth it. Anyway, if you want to find these or this all over the internet, all the links you need are listed in the description box below, along with the link to my Ko-fi account if you feel like supporting the channel. Right next to the like and subscribe buttons if you feel like sticking around to see what else I get up to. And yeah, in the next few weeks, let me just check in my fancy new bureau. Anyway, in the next 2 months you'll probably find out what it is that I'm releasing in October, because I'd already planned that. And I do genuinely hope that you'll stick around, and I recognise the people that do. I hope you feel seen in both an ominous and a loving way. I'll see you in 2 weeks' time. Bye.